Good
morning,
I was
Jenny
like, where
White.
were you?
I had a ton of stuff going on this morning.
You have a ton of stuff. Well, I don't know what we're going to do about that.
Yeah, well.
What are we going to do about your ton of stuff?
Nothing we can do. Just gotta
ride through it.
Yeah, gotta just do all the work.
Cowboy up.
Yeah. That's right.
Is it lots of work for this weekend, or what's the deal?
No, well, just work at work.
Ew.
You know, I've been for the last 4 months, literally 4 months, we've been selling this airplane to these guys from the Bahamas or Turks and Caicos and Dominican Republic, and just bad actors, and they keep messing us around on some stuff. So
maybe it's time to find some new buyers.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're in a contract. But besides all that, how are you doing? Are you excited? It's hadn't rained in a while.
Oh my gosh, I'm thrilled. But do you know what? There has been so much rain that the ground is actually weeping. I'm not kidding. I mean, Dave and I went out to let the animals out and get everything started this morning, and there's still water like coming up out of the ground. I mean, it just doesn't have any place to go. It's so saturated. It's just like, I wish we were like the Beverly Hillbillies and that was like crude oil.
Yeah. Well, think about this. You should have plenty of hay. Yeah, you should have plenty of hay going forward.
Well, yes, but only if our farmers can get into the fields and get it out, because that's been the problem. I mean, you can't drive a 700,000-pound tractor on, mush. It tends to not, work very well. So yeah, I'm hoping that now that it's drying out some, I don't see any more puddles right in the front here. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
My goodness. All right. So, lots of things going on in our world. I know that it's nice to have, summer, because everybody goes, oh, I'm going on vacation and the legislature is gone and, there's not much going on. But see, the problem is we have to learn stuff over the summer, right? So we have to catch up with what happened during the legislative session while we were all running around like chickens with our heads cut off.
So what are you saying? We got to do summer school?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, that sounds like something an ex-teacher would say.
An
Stay on your
X.
summer school.
An X. Teachers are never X. Teachers are teachers are that's their personality. So you're never an X teacher.
Well, you do teach us. I'll give you that. You're like Professor Emeritus of all things, Jenny White.
That's correct. Professor Emeritus of the Jenny White. That's okay though. I mean, somebody's got it. You can just have colleges if you want. I still have to get on. My friend Joy Pullman, who's the one of the executive editors at the Federalist, she and her husband, they homeschool all 27 of their kids, and they have 7. They were actually working on creating a college specifically for homeschool students, like a college that homeschool students could go to, because I can't figure out if you can homeschool a kid, his entire high school career. Why would you not be able to homeschool them further than that? So anyway, I've got to get her on someday and see if she can talk about that, because it's a pretty cool deal. And I don't know why we can do the same thing, but who we have waiting in the wings for us to finish yapping about silly things. You know who we have?
Well, I sure do.
She'll tell you this when she gets on, but this is her first podcast. Well, we were her first podcast. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, I still remember the first time I saw and met Molly, which was at that rope summit that you guys did at Quail Creek. And she did the whole book presentation years before anybody else did. Years. And yep. I'll just never forget Molly being up there, because I was just so blown away, because even at that time, I mean, I thought I was pretty aware of what was going on, and it was just mind-blowing when she was up there telling us about all those books in the libraries and in the classrooms, and it was before anyone else was on that train.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring Molly in. Maybe my pointer wasn't working.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good morning, Molly. I'm sorry. Good morning, Representative Molly Jenkins.
I really would appreciate it if you would just call me Molly. That's what we've been friends for a long time, Jenny. So
long time.
Yeah. So I that's the easy, simple way I'll feel most comfortable if you guys just call me Molly.
And I know, but it's just so awesome to me that, you're one of those people that didn't just sit there and go and throw shoes at the TV and go, there's a you actually went, you know what? I think I'm going to do something about this, and this is what I'm going to do. And you did it.
But first I threw shoes. Let's get real. And other objects, whatever was handy. And you're right. That was a big motivation. A little bit about my past, and, some of the people I've run with, and just the things that I have been exposed to. And you're right. I just thought now's the time. I have to do this. So it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to do. In fact, I think the first time I was like, I don't know about that. It seemed like it was going to be quite a challenge for me, because I had lived a real solitary life up until the time that I ran for office.
Okay, so let's start there. So what is your background? Just give us your basic background.
I also am an educator. I just thought I would throw that in there, but I'm one who never joined the union, and that's something I'm super proud of. I saw
Neither did I. Solidarity.
Good for you. And that is so unusual. I think people are, teachers are put in a position where they're frightened. They think they have to join. They're going to have this legal protection. And anyway, it's something I'm really super happy that I did not join the union. But let's go back a little bit further. I think I started getting politically active with a group called GEL, Govern Edmond Locally, back.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that was back in 2007, and it was to get the United Nations basically out of Edmond. They had a 3-click challenge that would take you to the United Nations website. So anyway, that's really when I started getting active, and I never considered the idea of running for office. We moved out to the country in 2013, and I love it out here. I'm never going back to the city. I think you probably share that in common with me, Jenny. No way I'm going back to the city. But once I moved out here, I think you know my story, Jenny. I'll go into it briefly, but I had a decade of tragedy. I had a lot of stuff hit me, and I think it was preparation. Really, I do. I think God was preparing me for the role that I was going to be playing. So after we moved out to the country to be a little more self-sufficient, which is important to me, I got very ill in 2016 and almost died. And a lot of people from my church surrounded me, and it was I shouldn't be here. And for a long time, I questioned why am I here? What do you want?
Yeah, I don't think, when Molly says really sick, I'm not really sure. I think you have a concept about really sick, but Molly was so sick. When I would go to the hospital to see her, she was completely unresponsive. She couldn't talk to you. She couldn't have a conversation with you. And she didn't even look like Molly. It was the most frightening thing I have ever. It was so frightening to me just to see you in that state, and just, oh my goodness, all the nights we would go up and pray over you. And it was frightening for us.
Well, I attribute my being here largely to your prayers. So I thank you for that. I got bit by a tick. So everybody, we've got a lot of mosquitoes out. We got a lot of ticks out right now. Be sure and spray your bodies down good. But I got a disease, ehrlichiosis is what I got. And then I got a secondary infection. And this is a long word. It's hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis, also known as HLH. And so I ended up at OU Med Center, and I had a cytokine storm. All of my vital organs were shutting down. And it really was scary. And I looked like the Stay Puft guy. It was
awful.
I was so much water retention, and I was intubated, put into a coma. So I don't remember a lot of that time. I know that when I woke up.
We do, though.
I know. And when I woke up, I didn't know where I was, and they wanted to know because they had me under for about 2 weeks. And when I woke up, they said, "Do you know where you are?" And I said, "I'm either in Dallas or LA, and Obama's holding me captive." And so that was kind of fun. Yeah. But that's real common from what I understand. When you come out of a coma, you have, I had no idea that I'd been transported there.
Yeah.
I have no memory from the week before I went to the hospital. So I had no idea where I was.
Yeah.
So anyway, but there was a lot of recovery after that. I stuttered for quite some time and wondered why in the world God had spared me. 2 years after that, I shattered my femur and broke my wrist, and I was in a wheelchair for many months. And then I lost my precious boy, and that was really, really hard. So losing a child is just difficult. And so anyway, all that is to say that I went through this decade of just really, really difficult times. But that's what builds character. I'm not a victim. I am not a victim. Everybody has bad stuff happen to them. It's how you handle it. It's what you do with it. So anyway, consequently, there were some other things that happened during that time period. And I just, after losing my dad in August, I was like, okay, it's time for me to try something new. And this opportunity availed itself. And so I had previously helped defeat a school bond is what kind of got me in this position and why I was asked to run. So it was a very large $30 million for 330 kids. It was obscene amount of money. And
wait, what?
Yeah, this was Coyle. This was in Coyle Public Schools.
$30 million for 330 kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I ran all over the district and put, and they had presented it like, okay, you know how they always do. This is not going to be a tax hike. Everything's going to be the same.
Well, we can say this all together because it's always what they say. When you complain about it, they go, it's for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. Actually, on this one, they did say it was going to be a 13.4%. But then when we dug into it, they were going off of projected numbers that we didn't even have our taxes out yet. They were going off of projected numbers. It was actually a 26% tax increase, which is crazy. I mean.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I just want to put this in because this is a comment that so beautiful here about God's healing power and loving believers keeping the faith. God is so good. Amen.
God is good all the time. It's amazing. I cannot. I think that that decade was for me in many ways to draw near to Him.
Oh yeah. If you tend to be people like us who are go people, of missions, and I mean, sometimes God will go like that.
Yeah. Many times in a row, I might add. So
and Margie says amazing testimony.
But, the great thing again is, I'm not a victim, and we have such a victim mentality in our society today. Bad things happen to everybody. What do you do with it? How do you move forward? And by running for office, this is a way that I'd always wanted to serve in the military and never did. And this is an opportunity for me to serve the people. So it's
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, you never told me that one.
Well, I didn't really think of it as an option.
Maybe you did and I forgot.
Well, my parents were just like, when you go to college, that's what we do to our kids when you go to college.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not always the best option, but I just didn't see the military as something. I just never considered it younger. But as I got into my 30s and 40s, I was like, I wish I would have done that. So,
yeah. So, okay, you got into the school bond. Well, and you worked with us for a while. I
did.
About a year, I think, or a little bit longer. I don't remember how long it was. But yeah, you worked with us.
Yes. And that was great. I loved that. And we loved you. It was so hard to dig into those books. You guys, Michael, you were talking about that. Really, really difficult to come home every night and log in and go into the Destiny system and look at those books because it does something to you. And I'm a grown adult. I can't imagine what kind of thing, what does that do to the developing mind? It's really disturbing. And I'm sure a lot of those books are still in the libraries. No question about it.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I think that you're right. Jana says, good to hear your story. Praise God. And I do think your story is so important because I think it does. I mean, it gives people hope. And then it does show people that it's not, my gosh, I still remember because you kind of put everything together, but you had knee surgery and this was before your mom died.
Yeah, and I lost 2 parents during that decade, and I cared for my mom, and there's a lot of things that happen, but that's life. Life is messy. Yeah.
I will never forget this because I still have to have my knee surgery, right? Oh. So you had your knee replacement surgery. So I was like super keyed in on this one. And it went fine, right? Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
And then I fell and shattered my femur, and it was just dust. It was just dust. And so of course they put me in a walker, which was crazy because when they looked at it, they told my husband, it looks like about 8 breaks, right? And then the surgeon comes out and my husband, Brett, says, so I guess she broke it in about 8 places. And the doctor said, no, it was dust, 8, it was like try 800. So anyway,
how did that happen?
Did you say why or when?
No. How? Was it because of the surgery?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I slipped on a wet surface. And when I did, I had on flip-flops and it pulled my leg back and I went straight down on my knee. So it was a really serious break.
Yeah.
Why they put me in a walker, I don't know, because then I walked to my refrigerator door and I pulled out the freezer part, right? And there's suction. This is 3 days later. Well, I fell backwards from that suction and broke my wrist. So anyway, I ended up in a wheelchair for about 3 months and lots of PT. So,
my gosh.
But here's the deal. You know what? I felt so much better after I did have the surgery when I initially had it. So I know you have to just need to sit down and do it.
We need to keep you off of slippery surfaces. And
hey, wait, the house is a slippery surface if you ask me. So.
Okay, so speaking of slippery, my transition there. So how prepared were you for what you ended up finding as a representative, do you think? So you ran, you knew this is something that you wanted to do, you were serious about it, so you get elected, you have this thought process in your head. How did it match what actually happened?
I wasn't really sure what to expect other than I knew it was going to be bad. I mean, I've been around this for so many years now that I knew the culture was going to be bad. I didn't really realize how bad it was going to be. And I do think the culture up there is bad. We're suspending rules. We're doing all kinds of things that, the move to the 2-committee system, that's just 2 gatekeepers for conservatives, in my opinion, is all that is, because we passed everything almost out of the first committee. Why are we doing this twice? This is busy work. We should be deliberating on bills. But anyway, I do have a lot of encouragement, though, you guys, because the incoming freshmen, we had several of us that are strong and committed and principled. Yep. And our goal is, let's change the culture of the house.
So when you say culture, and I kind of want to dig in on this because I think people, when we use the word culture, I think all of us here get it, but I want to kind of break that down. Explain kind of what you think in terms of culture.
Well, the house is a system, okay, I guess would maybe be a place to start. And there are different people in that system. We have rules that are supposed to help us govern. So I guess just what I'm referring to is there is a cultural system up there. We have the leadership people. We have the new freshmen. We have all the different committees. So there's a lot of working parts there. But when it comes to the culture, I would say we need to be more freedom-based, more liberty-based. And we have a lot of lemmings up there, in my opinion, who they're not independent thinkers. They're not willing to go against the trend. So that's primarily what I'm talking about.
So from my perspective, and I think this is what you're talking about, so we have kind of a very authoritarian system. Would you agree where the leaders of the House and Senate kind of become authoritarians over what's actually going on, working behind the scenes to get bills heard, to get people on board with various bills, that kind of thing?
And who loses out? The people, because that's exactly what's happening. I know that you've had other people on your podcast who have probably mentioned the fact that I think the Democrats fared better than the conservative Republicans in the House. That's a broken system. The people in my district are being disenfranchised. The people in Jim Shaw's district, Gabe Woolley, there's a whole slew of us that they saw us coming in. They knew that we defeated incumbents, which is basically a message to leadership. We want something different. And I think they find that maybe even a little frightening. It's disrupting their system.
Yeah, I was gonna say threatening. I think they're probably a little
That's a great
threatened.
term. Yeah, threatening. That's the word. We're threatening the breakdown of that system because again, we would really like to instill a new culture in the house. And get back to common sense principles. We've just got a bunch of people hitting that green button. Dopamine green is what I call it. Yeah. And you vote for my bill, I'll vote for your bill. Let's look at the essence of these bills. Let's look at what's really going on with these bills and then debate them thoroughly and move forward. That's not, in my opinion, really what's happening. And it's hard for me. I will say I don't have the prior experience. I can't look back to 2024 and compare those 2 years. But what I can tell you is that what I saw, for example, suspending rules to go past midnight. Look, the people of Oklahoma are asleep at that time. How about we not do that? That is so that there's no transparency there. Or suspending rules so that we can have a bonus vote. Wholly unacceptable. And that's one of the things I really want to dig into is rules. That's something that I want to understand thoroughly by the time that I get back for the next session.
So John says they're scared that their funny money might be going by the wayside. And I mean,
lots of funny money.
Michael's giggling, but the bottom line is this. If they put $1 million into Kevin Wallace's campaign and they, by they, I mean PACs, big businesses, all that kind of, not the we the people money. And he only got, I think, Kevin, what do we decide, Michael, that Kevin Wallace had just individual donations under 10% of his whole account. The rest of them were all associated with PACs or big business. Yeah. So if that's the case, and Jim Shaw can win on we the people money, that's frightening.
It is frightening to them, and it should be frightening. The people deserve better. It's just very simplistic. The people deserve better. They deserve common sense. They deserve legislators who are not only reading the bills, but actually, digging into the bills. It's one thing to do a precursory glance of a bill. It's another thing to dig in and look at it. And that's hard when you're looking at probably 1,000+ bills in one session. We have too many bills. And I will go ahead and mention this now. I would like to be the one who turns that around. Let's do more repealers. I got repealers passed this year. Repealers are important. Let's get stuff off the books.
Wait, what?
Repealers?
You got repealers passed?
I did. Yeah. And the thing is we just have
good.
And that's something I really, really want to capitalize on. I am the vice chair of the Administrative Rules Committee, which is a super important committee.
That is.
And it truly, truly is. There's a lot that happens in that committee. And yeah, so it's I don't know, just that's kind of where I found a home, and it's working for me. So
Janice has agreed not to spend the rules and to vote after hours. And it wasn't even that. It was holding. Oh, and Mary says, amen, too many bills. Legislative chaos is a uniparty tool.
It is what I'm trying to think of the saying. When I passed one of my repealers, I said, the fewer laws, the freer the people. Yeah. You want to talk about upsetting a group of people when I said that, because you know what they're there for? To make more laws.
Yeah.
I told you my story about.
No, tell me.
That's so funny. That's the best.
Tell me.
Oh gosh, and I can't think of his name now. I don't know why, but he was a representative from Midwest City, and this was when we were fighting Common Core. And I went in and sat down to talk to him when we were talking, and I said, but what's your job though? Because I was trying to get him to say upholding liberty of my constituents. And basically his answer was to write bills.
No. And I have become known as the queen of no, I think, by the way. I don't want to be a queen. I'm just the legislator of no, but yeah.
Wait, I thought Kendall Sacchieri she may be vying for your title.
No, I think I have more votes than she does. I think I have really? The second most in the House. So I have stacked them up, and primarily that's because I like my own freedom, and I want the people in my district to enjoy that same freedom, because without liberty, what do we have?
And Gracie agrees. We need more representation, a lot less politics. So there's hope. Good to know. Thank you, Molly. We need more like you. Why is it? And now this is a weird esoteric question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I know you can handle it. Why is no important? Because they make fun of you when you say no. Why is no important?
Because if you think about it, so many of our bills are appropriating the people's money. Okay. It's not my money. And I think we often lose sight of that. We don't put the money towards into things that actually need it, right? There's so many little projects that I think people up there are hoping to get accomplished, because that means more power for them, more money for them. And I guess that leads me into no lobbyist money also, which I'm not taking any. That is the cornerstone, I think, of my it was the cornerstone of my campaign, and it will remain that. And I encourage everybody, look at the ethics report so you can see Molly Jenkins is not paid and bought and paid for.
Yeah, but well, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. So I want to talk about some of your repealers. What were some of your repealers? Because I honestly don't remember. Talk about those.
Oh, you know what? There's not a lot to talk about really in that. We just have a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned up. Okay. So one of my favorite ones, which actually did not get passed because the chairman wouldn't hear it. This is great. This is great. This is great. It was a repealer dealing with toll booths. Guess what? We don't even have toll booths anymore.
Not anymore.
And he wouldn't hear the bill. Okay.
About toll booths.
About toll booths that are non-existent. Let's pull all these statutes. Let's get rid of this stuff. Let's clean things up. It's general housekeeping. So anyway, one of them was a task force that had already been disbanded. So it's stuff like that. It's the little things, but if agencies are, supposed to get rid of two rules for every rule that they bring in, right? Well, it's the same thing. We just need to be, if we're bringing in all this new legislation, can we please just get rid of the old stuff? We just need to clean it up.
Well, when you were saying no, Molly, where was the opposition coming from to you? Was it just within your own committee? Was it leadership going up? Like, who was upset when you'd say no all the time?
Oh, everybody on the floor, because I would defy leadership. We have a bunch of lemmings. Okay, so we have all these people who are voting in line with leadership constantly, right? Because again, it's the whole, this is what, I have actually had people say to me, well, I'm just going to do what the caucus wants to do.
Yes, I've heard that too.
It's crazy. Who would do that? How about use your mind, read the bills, think through them, figure out, what the right vote for your people is, and move forward. So anyway, my no vote got them so frustrated that one guy yelled across the floor, "You voted no on my repealer. I'm voting no on yours." Okay, well, his repealer
was the person.
That would be Representative Bayshore. He was
really, honestly, screamed across the floor, "Nanny, nanny, boo, boo."
Mm-hmm.
You didn't vote for mine. I'm not voting for yours.
Right, and there was they were very different types of repealers. If you repeal a whole section of law, you can change things drastically, right? Well, my repealer was for obsolete law, right? So it's one thing to repeal obsolete law. It's another thing to potentially repeal useful law, right? So anyway, yes, you voted no, so I'm voting no. So kind of a heated atmosphere sometimes. And at first it was difficult because I just thought, what is wrong with these people?
Amber says, what a
I did. I got in my car and I was just like, I don't understand. Who would not want to get rid of toll booths or whatever? So anyway, it's definitely been a learning experience, but my no vote represents opposition to them, Michael. It represents that I'm an independent thinker. It represents that I'm not afraid of them. And it represents that I'm not on the take. I had one of the freshmen come up to me and say, I'm so frustrated. I'm dealing with with one of my lobbyists. They're upset about my vote. And I just kind of laughed and I looked at her and I said, I don't have that problem. Yeah.
What did she say when you said that?
She just kind of shrugged it off, you know.
So it was one of the newly elected people, but they were still worrying about what the lobbyist said.
Mm-hmm. So I don't have to worry about that. They don't even stop by my office. It's great. I have a big sign that says no lobbyist money.
Yes,
no gifts, no lobbyist money. I don't want it. I prefer my sweat equity. I'll get out. I'll talk to the people. They deserve better. They deserve to actually have a representative who is listening to them and who can come to their doorstep and explain why they are voting no or why they are
John says,
yes.
Oh my, someone going against the establishment. Yay. I love this lady. And Earl's daughter says, half the troubles of this life can be traced to saying yes too quickly and not saying no soon enough.
I love that quote. Okay, can you imagine? Let's just pause for a minute. Okay, can you imagine if you went through life and 99% of the time on every big decision in your life, you voted yes? Yeah. What would happen? I mean, long pause. What would happen, really? So that's what we're doing. When you look at my votes next to my predecessor, he voted yes 99% of the time.
Wow.
So I cannot imagine going through life and just saying yes to everything that comes up in front of me without taking a good hard look at it. And I'm sure I'd have a few no's in there.
Honestly, 99% of the time.
99.34. He voted yes.
Wow.
So
I've got it here. Wait. That equated to let's see. Voted yes an astounding 99.34% of the time, finding his no button only 6 times during the entire session out of 916 votes. That's a broken system.
So what he voted no on then? You know what
I have no idea, but he did it 6 times.
Because my thought process is probably voted no on giving power back to the people. Now, see, we'll vote no on that.
Right. But the rest of the time, it's dopamine green all the way. Yeah. Like on Facebook, you get the little likes and they say that gives you a little dopamine boost. I think that's almost what's happening here. It's that green light just makes them super happy.
Well, I think it makes them.
Jenny, remember what bills are hitting the floor? Which bills are hitting the floor? The ones leadership wants to hit.
The only ones they want.
The ones they want.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fair. So Jana puts you in the category with Rick West and Tom Gann. I hope you're happy about that.
I am in good company. And I would add to that Jim Shaw, Gabe Woolley, Olson did really well this well. One of my favorites, Derek Hildebrandt, wonderful, upstanding man.
Yeah. John Boy says the people need to go to the Capitol and ask all of them fine elected politicians for money.
They have a lot. So, I just don't want to. It's funny because I look at things very differently.
Yeah.
I have zero. I am a real estate broker by trade and spent 20 years on my own business. I zero desire to go back to that. I don't want to sell any more real estate. I don't want to open, I'm truly doing this for the people. It's important and I'm not going to sit around and complain. I'm going to get up and do something.
Well, I mean, and so I'm going to ask you this question because I want to have this discussion because I just think it's important. And I already know what your answer is. So it's an easy question to ask. What do you think about caucus?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Caucus is behind closed doors. We represent the people in our district. They deserve to know exactly what's going on. I find it troubling. They want us to always bring stuff to caucus before we take it to the floor, which was great fun on the very first day when we were voting for rules. And I threw in an amendment to not allow, to only allow females into the female bathroom. Now, this only applies to the house bathroom. So it's one bathroom. And you would have thought the world was coming to an end because I didn't get approval from leadership and caucus to bring forth that amendment.
Wow.
They told us when we came in, just lay low, pay attention to what's going on. Then you'll know how to be a better legislator. Relationships are so important. Okay, the relationships that are important are the relationships that I have with my constituents. Those are the relationships that are important. And when someone looks at me and says, well, sometimes you gotta go along to get along, or it is about relationships. It's about being principled, and you can't do both at the same time. So you have to pick the kind of leader that people have to pick the kind of leader they want. Do they want a principled leader, or do they want a leader who's going to have relationships with the people at the house? And I do want to have good relationships with them. Obviously, I want to be kind, and I work with them all day. But ultimately, my purpose is to make relationships with the people so that I know what they need going forward. Which is why I will be outdoor knocking this summer.
Look at what Catherine says.
Okay, yeah, I could go with that.
But I mean, when you talk like that, it does sound like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I never even conceived it like that until Catherine said that. It does sound like a creepy cult. You have to stay in this. Okay, shh. You just close your mouth. And you wait and watch everybody, and we'll tell you what to do. But you can't do that because we're going to control you, and we have to meet together in this group. It does sound like a creepy cult.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Well, what I know is that my goal is to enhance liberty at every opportunity that I have for the people. Do the next right thing. Do the next right thing.
Well, and Earl's daughter says, I'll be praying for you, Molly. History proves it only takes one to change what is perceived to be unchangeable. And I'll put this up again because Julie's right. The go along to get along phrase is the most abused phrase in government. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I want to ask you this question about caucus. There's a caucus retreat that's coming up in November, isn't it?
I think it's November, yes.
Yeah. So do you go to the caucus retreat?
Well, I went to the first caucus retreat, and I was the only, no, that's not true. Gabe Woolley also. We declined to stay at the hotel with the fancy casino and all the partying going on. And so we went to the caucus retreat, but we paid for our own hotels outside, away from the retreat. So they booked the entire place. So I couldn't actually pay for a room there. I had to go outside. So basically I went to, I don't even
wait. Okay. No, stop and say that again.
Okay, they booked the entire block wing, right, for the Republican Party, and it was in Broken Bow. I don't recall the name of the hotel. It was very nice, and they had a big casino there. And so anyway, I believe I stayed in Idabel, which was maybe 20 minutes away. I couldn't find a close location, but I wasn't about to take their money. That's a practice I did not want to start, and I will continue on that line moving forward. My first test was when the speaker gave me $3,300 check, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? I called him. I was like, well, do you want me to shred it? Do you want me to give it back to you? Or do you want me to just tear it up? What would be your preference? He told me to keep it. It's in my safe. It says void on it. So. Right. Let's just do this right. So yeah,
here's the thing, though.
I wanted to hear what was going on. I'm brand new to this. I didn't, know. Now, I think the real question is, will I attend next year or this year in November? And I don't know.
There's a trick to that. There's because I was thinking about that as you were talking. It's kind of like, and I'm sorry to use this phrase, but it's true. You keep your friends close, you keep your enemies closer. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's kind of this thing in that you kind of want to know, what's going on, so you can kind of watch out what's going on. But then on the other side, I personally would kind of want to, that to their whole agenda, because the entire point of keeping everybody together is to form the connections together with you. But see, here's your constituency out here, but they want this. They want the lockstep. We have caucus. You run this by me. But the people that you serve as an elected representative are outside that bubble.
They are.
So we have people like you who are willing to stand up and say, not playing your game, but I'm not doing that. I almost think if you could get so many people not to go, just get everybody together and go, we're not playing your game. We're not doing that. We're not part of your caucus. We're elected representatives of the people. I think that would be more of an up yours kind of a thing.
I can't say that I wouldn't enjoy seeing that happen. And I haven't actually made a decision as to whether or not I'll be attending this next year. Again, sometimes there's useful information there. If I do attend, I will tell all of my constituents right now, I would be paying my own way. I do not accept that money from them, because when you accept that money, spoken or unspoken, there's something that they expect in return. So.
Well, and it's sad, because I have, there's at least one member of the new crop that I just love very much, but she just believes that it's not going to matter, because so long as she does what, her constituency says, then it just doesn't matter. And I do believe that you can be stalwart enough in your own belief systems to follow what your constituency is saying, despite the money coming in. But then on the other hand, you have the appearance of the money coming in. And I think that's kind of what they count on, is that, oh, listen, this is what Lisa has some. Here's what she says. Go to the conference, pay for everything yourself, keep the receipts, learn what you can, use it when you need to. Don't set yourself apart so much that they shun you completely and you can't help us anymore. So there you go. That's Lisa's.
and there's some wisdom in that. Absolutely. Okay. It's a fine line that you walk, but you do have to remain true to your principles, because that's why I was elected. If I can't remain true to my principles, I need to be voted out.
See, and I kind of struggle with that. I see what Lisa is saying completely. But I kind of struggle, because there's the up yours factor for me. It's very satisfying.
I had a few moments like that. I get it. I do. But yeah, I did go last time, and I didn't save the receipts, I don't think, but
and Catherine says
I can't write it off. So
Catherine says, I donate for you to go, because we need you to know what they're up to. And so yeah. I can totally see that. And then on the other hand, I see the other point of, there is kind of some up yours in the sense of that you take their money and don't do anything they want you to do.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you can not take their money and not do anything. Yeah. Also, that would be the way to go with that. And that is basically what I did. They brought in James Langford and a few people to share with us at caucus, and I was not inspired. My job is just to stay true to the people. Jenny.
There you go. You get the award. You just shut Jenny down.
Yay.
Distorted.
Now you're making me laugh. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Jenkins, you've always cracked me up. I mean, because you're one of the most understated. You do that all the time. You say stuff under your breath, or you'll just follow up with something. And it's just completely whatever. And it always makes me laugh. But that was funny. You get the award for the week for that one. That was hysterical.
Okay.
And look at this.
Well, put me. I want to be a contender for the year award. I think we should make a new award.
It's not just me. I mean, you got everybody with that. Catherine's like, I was not inspired.
Stop.
Well, that's probably the real representation of people. Like when James walks in, I mean, are you really inspired? I mean, I'm not. I agree.
Okay, I gotta hold on. Molly, I'm actually crying. Holy cow. Yeah, I mean, you got everybody with that. It wasn't just me. I mean, it wasn't just me.
Candor is a gift I have, okay? I just believe that people should have a representative who is real and is going to tell them what's going on. And so, yes, there is a benefit to going to caucus because you do kind of find out what they're doing behind the scenes. How many people do you think asked me for my free my free money that I had to spend in the casino? I think I had there were announcement. Anybody didn't want to use their casino money, give it to me. Not me, but that's what people in there were announcing in the caucus, which was so telling to me as a new freshman. I've got these people yelling, hey, I'll take all your casino money that the house is supplying or the hotel is supplying you, whatever. But it's actually the house who paid for those rooms.
I think I'm going to write this down for later use because we're going to do an awards ceremony at the Liberty Conference, the Liberty Oklahoma Conference, and you may just get the legislator that reminds us about the senator.
I saw that. Okay, but wouldn't you agree there's something about candor and just being real? I mean, just lay it out there. This is who I am. This is who I am.
Oh my goodness. I don't remember actually crying.
Well, back on that $3,000 check. So was that made out to you or was that made out to your committee?
Campaign. No, it's made out to my political. Yeah. It was again, but that's a bad way to start your I don't want to say career because that's not the word, but you're serving.
And
that's a bad way to start off your service. So, I mean, great, thanks, but no.
Listen to this one. The caucus sounds like a bucket of caca. Everyone else, maybe instead of caucus, we call it caca.
Yeah.
The bucket knows it's gross.
Can you imagine if we had cameras in there, though? I mean, I think that would be awesome. Put cameras in there, transparency.
Yeah, but everyone in the bucket is used to the stench, and it's so warm and comfortable. And you know what's funny is I do see now somebody else is laughing. I mean, you look what you started, Molly. Good night. So let me ask you this then. What do you think? Because I was surprised. I'll be honest. I mean, having a person, this is coming from a person who's known you a long, long time. I mean, I've always known you to be extremely forthright and to say what's on your mind. I'd never known you to do anything other. I mean, if I needed to ask a question and know an answer to something, then I would go to Molly Jenkins because Molly would go, that's crap. We're not doing that. And that, or it's great. And we'll do it. Whatever it was, I knew, your yes was going to be your yes and your no was going to be your no. So I already knew that about you. I knew that would make you a great representative. But one thing I did not know about you after all of those years was that you really, your brain is a lot more wired to think quickly on your feet than I ever knew that it was. And some of the things that I saw you doing, I thought, how is she? Wow, I was really honestly, you got me on several different things. This is kind of your bailiwick, I think, Molly. I mean, I've been impressed.
Well, thank you. I think it's the motive. I'm truly here to serve the people. I love my country, unashamedly. I miss the joy that I had in my childhood. I want my grandchildren to experience that. There's just nothing like liberty. Nothing.
Now, Lisa's going to crack us up here because somebody said, we wish we had cameras in there, and she was cameras. There be no video. Here's a question for you, Molly.
Great.
What was it like for you to see your own party playing sketchy shell games with legislation the grassroots were strongly opposing this session?
Gosh, again, back to my no votes happened over and over again. And it was difficult to watch because I think human beings have a tendency to often forget that people aren't like them. They're different. We have all kinds of different people. And, in reality, I know that I wouldn't want everyone to be like me. That wouldn't be good. Things wouldn't get, you have to have all kinds of different personalities. So, but watching Republicans behave, I want to be careful here. I don't want to say watching Republicans behave like Democrats. I don't think that's a solution. I think that just divides us more. But watching them work against constitutional principles was incredibly disturbing to me. The whole rules issue. I don't, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually stood up and made a statement on the floor that had I known what they were doing, because they will just say, vote to suspend this rule. And if they had explained it thoroughly, I would not have voted for it. And I wanted the record to reflect that. And so anyway, it's just, they groupthink. They don't think independently. And it was sad to me. I was hoping to come into a situation where people actually worked together and talked about ideas and how can we help Oklahomans prosper? What can we do for the people? And that's not what I saw with regard to my own party. So it was disturbing to me.
So how do you see a way, having been through it once, what do you think you would do differently upcoming February? What do you think, what can we help you do? Kind of walk us through what your thoughts are about February.
Well, the one thing that we need more than anything else is more candidates who are willing to go with the no lobbyist idea. It is probably one of the ideas that my constituents liked the most when I was door knocking. They were the most appreciative of the fact that I wasn't accepting lobbyist money, but we're growing the culture. So it's discouraging because maybe the people aren't seeing it in the votes, but the votes are trending towards no's. The votes are trending towards being more conservative. So we need to pull more people in who have that same mentality of people first. Not making money first, not getting the bills I want passed so that I look good and I'm powerful, but simply the bills that do not impose new regulations and that liberate the people. Does that answer your question, I hope?
No, it does. Do you feel like this next February? And let me preface it by saying this. One of the things that bothers me the most about our legislature is that and you just said this basically, there's not a lot of deliberation that goes on. It's like, well, we've already decided this in caucus, and so this is what it's going to be. Vote yes or no. I mean, it's not, you can kind of tell there's a game there, even if you're not really up on what that game might be. And so if you have this group of people that is expecting you just to push buttons and not push back, what I'd like to see more next session is so many of you, not just you, but so many of you just talking through these things. Okay, well, wait a minute. What about this? I'm going to ask this question of the author. I think, I mean, you did that. You did a great job with that during the rules discussion. And I've seen Gabe do a couple of them and Jim do a couple of them as well, where they just really honed in on these things. I think the more questions that are asked, the harder it is, the easier it is for the people to see through the veil of, hey, we already decided this, right? I don't know. What do you think?
I think that I will be more equipped to ask more questions next year. And I do think questions are important. It's a pretty intimidating situation when you walk in there. You have 101 people who are all pretty strong personalities. Let's just start there. You're not going to get elected if you don't have a fairly strong personality. So you put 101 of us in a room, and again, not knowing how the process worked as a freshman, I think you're going to see more of that next February. I'm excited to be participating in that. And I think also we need to hit back harder in committee. It's not just necessarily on the floor as much as in the committee. We need to be weeding out bad bills before they ever make it to the floor. And again, we get back into that good old buddy system, but the only way to fix that is if we remain steadfast, we get new candidates. Eventually we build into the House more conservative candidates who are willing to take a stand and to say no to the lobbyist money and truly, represent the people.
You hit something I didn't even think about, but I personally think you're 100% right about that. I look at committee votes and then you look at floor votes. At least there are yeses and nos on floor votes. So many committee votes are just yes.
Especially the first committee. Why we're doing two committees and wasting our time when we could actually be deliberating these bills longer in committee and vetting them and making sure that they're good for the people of Oklahoma. What we're doing is this, two committee system. So you're so busy scrambling around. And as a freshman, it was even worse because you'd have to get ready to present in committee and then you'd have to turn around and present in another committee, when we could have done it one time and been thorough. And had I had more time to prepare, I could have presented better. I think I presented fine, but you give me 2 more weeks, I'm just going to dig in and find more facts. So I felt like it was I can't compare it to when we only had one committee, but I've talked to many people who have, and I saw how everybody was running around. It was just like chickens with their head cut off. Where am I supposed to be? Move to this committee, run. And you would hear people saying, I'm supposed to, I need to go first because I've got to get over to this committee. And I really believe that a lot of that could have been solved if we had just been more deliberate with one committee. So it's the system we have right now. I hope that we can change that. It would be best.
Mary has a comment you might like. That's pretty accurate.
That's how that works. It is.
Oh, and Catherine has a question. Do you know of any others that aren't taking lobbyist money?
Yes, I do. Gabe Woolley is not taking lobbyist money. Tom Gann is not, and he has been, he and Rick West is not. They have both been really, as senior members of the House, they have been so helpful to us freshmen who are truly grassroots candidates and conservative and there for the people and for the right reasons. Also Jim Shaw is very selective. I don't think he's taken any, but I'm not sure. And then Derek Hildebrandt's done pretty well with it, I think also. He's gone to a few functions, but I think he's done pretty well with it. So primarily, though, myself, Gabe Woolley, Rick, Tom, and I guess Tim Shaw. So,
well, and if you go back to what Lisa said earlier, hey, we want you at those because we want you to know what's going on.
Okay, but you can't go to those functions and still read the bills. That's the trick here, right? Those lobbyists, they're entertaining every night. Let's go out. Look, I'm not going to be able to read those bills if I go stuff my gut, have a couple of mixed drinks, and come home. By that time, I've lost 3.5 to 4 hours of time that should have been spent in deliberating bills. I put in lots of 16-hour days, lots of them. I made that commitment and I kept it to read the bills. So you can't do both. You have to choose on that. Now you can go to caucus though. You should, that's one way to know what's going on. But I think at all costs, people should stay away from lobbyist events.
That's it. I never thought about that, but that's an absolute.
Keep them busy.
Part of the strategy, right?
It is. And I think that's what we see in our larger society too, trying to fill out all your tax forms and do this and do that. And it makes it really difficult to focus on making sure that we ensure liberty for the people.
Yeah, they get you running in so many directions.
The busy work.
Yeah. Well, Molly, I know you had said you had about an hour this morning. I mean, we're happy to keep you as long as you want to stay.
If anyone has questions, it's so important to me. I want my constituents to know that I care and that I'm listening. I will be let's do this before you get off. Let's talk about your love-hate relationship with social media. Oh, yeah. Okay. So off social media for 10 years, and then I decided to run for office. So that was a little bit of a predicament for me, but it worked out okay. It did. I had a few posts on Facebook, and primarily what I was doing was I was going directly to the people. Facebook is the one that really gets me. I'll just go ahead and bring it up. I'm not I kind of think about the same thing about Zuckerberg as I probably do some of our other elected officials. I won't repeat that name, but I just don't. I don't understand why that's our go-to, but I do understand it's important to communicate with the people. So my primary goal was not to try to get back on social media. My primary goal was to read the bills, learn the system so that I can get in and make a difference. And I will be doing more on social media. And I want to encourage people. I will be having a monthly newsletter coming out. We're starting that this summer. So if you will email molly.jenkins@okhouse.gov, we can put you on the email list, and we'll be happy to get that email out so that you can keep track of what I'm doing. That's very, very important.
It's okhouse.gov?
Yes.
Yes.
molly.jenkins@okhouse.gov.
Right.
And that's everybody. If you're not my constituent and you want the newsletter, you can get it too. But all of us, it's first name dot second name @okhouse, because I want you to communicate. If you're not in my district, I want you to communicate with me if you are. But if you're not in my district, you need to be communicating with your House member so that you can let them know how you would like for them to vote, because it does make a difference. I mean,
it does, but
emails come in.
It does, but I'll be honest, as I always try to be. So my representative is John George, and I've got to go through his voting record to see how many times he pushed the green button, but he's a big green button pusher. And so I can text him or email him or whatever and ask him something or tell him something. Like, for example, I communicated quite a bit with him on the SB 224, the database system for workforce. And he just ended up pushing the green button every single time that thing came up. So
992 times.
He voted yes 92 times.
No, 992 times. He voted no 20 times. He missed 11 votes, which I missed 9. That's a regret I have. But a lot of them were stupid. Like, can we wear jeans? So anyway, but okay, so we'll compare that. He had 992. I had 525 yes votes.
Well, but I guess my point is, why am I communicating with my rep when he doesn't do anything that I want him to do, and he pushes the button 982 times?
That means it's time for someone to challenge him. That's simple.
We would love that here.
We need better. We need better. We need someone to challenge it who will take no lobbyist money. The people love that. And if you're willing to put in the hard work, you can get elected.
So I want to put up a couple. So 5 out of 6 out of 101. Wow. Guess we know what we need to add as an action item. Ask reps to stop taking lobbyist money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So lobbyists are the great distractors. What an evil genius way to control the system.
It is. And I mean, it's that coupled with leadership playing along with them. I mean, it's a machine. And again, I think one of the things that I'm going to ask from my constituents is be patient. I'm working hard. A lot of us have been put on ice, and the reason we've been put on ice is to try to keep you from not voting for us. They find us dangerous. They know that we are there to do the will of the people. We support we the people, and they don't like that. They're uncomfortable with that. So please be patient. Like I said, I'm doing work behind the scenes in the administrative rules. I had the real estate appraisal board rules. I was able to go through those, and I'm not convinced everybody's reading the agency rules either, but I read mine. And when I went through mine, I found bias training in the real estate appraisal board. Absolutely unacceptable. So we were able to get rid of that. Another one in the rules was they wanted to change the word criminal for the substance abuse agency to diversion. Well, I'm sorry.
Wait, what now?
Methadone, that's a criminal act. And it would behoove them to let people know in those clinics that if they sell their methadone, it's not just a diversion, it's an actual criminal act that they can go to prison for. So are we really?
Hold on. What was the reasoning behind, and what does even diversion mean?
Great question. It's just that you're very familiar with this, how the left has a tendency to come in and change language. Language is so important. As an English, I have my master's in English, and language is important, and how we use it is important. So by changing the terminology there to divergent, it's a softer, friendlier, feel-good kind of system. And that is not what addicts need, is a feel-good system. They need to understand that the consequences for their behavior can land them in prison for many years. So I was able to help us retain the word criminal, and that seems like a little thing, but it's not. We have to continue working throughout the system. There's lots of diversity, equity, and inclusion still in the agencies. I'm convinced of it from what I looked at, and there's still so much work to be done. But anyway, please be patient. I'm working hard for you. And again, you have to choose. You have to be friends and kind to people, but you do have to choose whether you want to be principled or play the game. And I feel like I was elected to be principled. So that's my goal.
Diversion suggests treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you guys are smarter than me, because I don't get that out of that.
Again, you can, the system can give them treatment, but we should be very honest about the fact that they're committing a criminal act. Let's not sugarcoat this. They need to understand that, and it's imperative that they understand that, or they could end up in prison. Oh no, Judge, it's just a diversion. No, it's a very real criminal act.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still out on that. Visit said, would love to have the non-lobbyist paid reps you mentioned come on to discuss legislative arm twisting by leadership. Well, I think one of the things that we want to do at the Liberty Oklahoma conference in November is to have a round table with new legislators to talk about these kinds of things, because I think people do want to know what's going on, because once we know what's going on, we know what to look for. We know the questions to ask people that want to become representatives and senators. We know what to look for when the legislative session starts again in February. And it just makes us a more informed electorate if you can inform us of what leadership does to you. So that's one thing that we do want to have during the conference, is a legislative roundtable like that, where you and others who are, have been elected for that first time to come in and talk about these things that we need to be careful of and support you in, and to watch for in people who want to get our vote for office.
Right. Well, being educated and informed is going to result in, I believe, better representation for the people if they're willing to participate in that. And I so very want to hear what the people have to say, because I noticed that a lot of we have a freshman text thread, and a lot of them were like, I'm going to this conference and that conference and that conference. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm going to my constituents' porch and knocking on their door and saying, hey, here I am. Do you have questions? How do you, do you have concerns? How do you think I did? What do you need? What's important to you? So again, it comes always back to the people.
I got into kind of a stinker argument with Representative Chris Banning on Facebook the other day, because he was talking about how excited he was that he had been named by Governor Stitt to be part of this education group, that they were going to go out of state to a conference. And, I just said something about, how is that conservative or not growing government? And, he came back and argued very strenuously that it's our job to go outside the state and make sure, or it's at least we should be getting ideas from other states about what to do in our own state. And my answer to that is BS. I mean, basically what you're finding outside of the state is what the WEF wants us to do. It's not what we need to be doing here in Oklahoma. And people laud this cell phone bill, and you're like, in all stretches of imagination, how could you even do that? The bill didn't originate in Oklahoma. It's from a group outside of the state that's tried to get all these people at these conferences to come on board with this idea that we don't want kids with cameras essentially in classrooms, because every time you say, well, we need to have CCTV in classrooms, what happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they completely freak out on that. And, the reality is I voted no on that. I am perfectly comfortable with my vote. Let's trace this all the way back to the parent. A parent gets to choose whether or not they buy a cell phone for their child, or how long their child can use it. And that is really their responsibility as a parent. If they're concerned about phones in classrooms, then why aren't they taking their phones away? So that's number one. Then we move to the teacher. Okay, I was an educator for 12 years. Put your phones up. I would not have tolerated that. That's very plain and simple. You have a job to do. You're there to instruct. The students are there to learn. So let's do that. You can't do that with a phone in your hand. From there, we go to the principal. The principal could easily say, hey, we've got a problem with this. Let's not do this. We then go to the superintendent. We have so many opportunities for no, and none of those opportunities require a law to do so. Why are we throwing more regulation at the people? That was another one of those votes that I was just astounded that everybody just fell in line with. It just, that one really, it was hard because I thought in my mind, I had that 1 second where I thought, what are my constituents going to think if I vote no? Because everybody wants phones out of the classroom. And then I thought, common sense. The school district already has that authority. Use it. If that's what they want, use it, right? But I agree with you. We aren't gonna find out what's going on there. Look what happened with COVID. Look at how much information we got from COVID once we were doing all this online stuff.
I'm so 150,000% behind you, because it's all, and I don't know. Well, it was communicated from the very beginning that leadership wanted this bill. I mean, because they started propagandizing about it months and months before February even rolled around on the calendar. Well, we need to have them. And my thought immediately was, I've been a classroom teacher. Dude, put your phone away. Okay, put your phone away. Give me the phone and you can have it at the end of class. Mm-hmm. What is the matter with that?
Very reasonable. That's common sense. That's common sense. And it's what we're lacking.
Well, and it's funny because Catherine said when I was in high school, our iPhones were in our backpacks. We just listened to the rules. And John Boy says so many teachers are worse than the kids with their phones. And I wonder sometime if that's part of it. The teachers are like,
yeah. I don't know. I haven't been in a classroom in a long time. But I know that I have watched from afar, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was a problem too. No. I didn't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, Molly Jenkins, I'm glad you've been my friend. I'm glad you're still my friend, but I'm even more gladder that you're a representative of the people, by the people, for the people in our Oklahoma legislature, and just give you all the props. And I've never laughed on the podcast that hard. So you totally.
Oh, yeah.
I was wiping tears away for.
Well, like I said, call it a blessing or a curse. Candor's something that I have a great appreciation of.
John says, because John is a teacher currently, and he says the classroom would scare you. It has really changed.
Oh, I am sure it has. I know that everything is pretty much prescribed what they're teaching. When I was teaching, I had the ability to create my own lesson plans and to analyze where the kids were, see what they needed, and move into those areas so that I could make sure they were well educated. So I'm not surprised. It makes me sad. So, here's the deal. I with the COVID stuff, everything that changed, my daughter is homeschooling the grandkids, and I'm really excited about that. So lots of good there for that. We did see a real surge in homeschooling with COVID. So well, we'll talk more about that later. Molly, you're truly a breath of fresh air. God bless you. Thank you.
Molly.
Michael, Jenny, thank you so much. This was great. Let's do it again.
Oh, you're welcome on this program any day of the week, Miss Molly. I really enjoyed it. Miss Molly.
Good golly, Miss Molly. Yep, I enjoyed it. So anyway, I hope you guys have a pleasant afternoon and enjoy. I understand that Shane Jett's coming up.
He's going to be on at 1:30.
Plug in for Shane. I'm excited to watch that. Everyone should watch that. That'll be a good interview. Or podcast.
We're going to talk to him a little bit about what happened on the last day at the Senate.
Ooh, in the House. We got to stay even longer. So.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
We were there until I got home. It's about a 45-minute drive. I got home at about 2 in the morning.
And why were they holding you there again?
Well, I think one reason was back to the Allie Friesen mental health bill that originated in the Senate. I want to say sometime around 5 p.m. Then they suspended the House rules, but they had to push that through. And of course, the Kennedy bill held us up for hours and hours. That was the one for to give pensions. So, that one held us up for hours and hours. And then of course there was the whole, let's do the witch hunt thing with Allie Friesen. I don't know, maybe she did need to go, right? But the way to do that is not voting something in after 5 o'clock in the evening, suspending the midnight rule, and voting on it, in the dark of night when our constituents have zero idea of what is going on. And that is why I voted no, and I will stand behind that vote. That is not how we conduct business.
Well, I think a lot of people didn't understand that, and we talked a little bit about that. And I think it was with Representative Shaw. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about him with that particular bill, because I think people didn't understand that. I just want to mention
Shaw voted with me also.
Anyone that puts Jenny on the floor is always welcome. We need a laugh too. And then Earl's daughter says, Michael, geez, keep it down. Jenny and Molly are trying to talk. And Michael had to go, actually.
Bye,
so
Michael.
I feel bad.
Yeah.
So we chatted, and poor Michael was like, well,
I know. I think it's because we've known each other for a long time, and there's a comfort factor there. So anyway.
Yeah.
And I love your podcast. I love what you're doing. I'm super excited about the conference in November. That's really great.
Oh, hey, I'm going to pull this up really fast.
If you have a business, we need support for this. Jenny needs your support.
Yes.
I love the period.
Yes.
I love that. I'm an English major.
For a reason.
Yes. It's perfect. I mean, that says it all. Liberty, period. It's great.
That's all. I mean, because think about what we could have if we just had liberty. And so many people, it's so sad because, and I know you feel the same way, so many people feel like we have liberty, but then you ask them questions. For example, do you own your own home?
Mm-hmm. Are you paying property taxes? Let's go there. Yeah.
And when you start, can you operate a business without paying the state for a license?
Mm-hmm.
When you start getting into these things, because we've been so indoctrinated for so long, Molly, to believe that the government has our best interests involved. And so when we have to go to the state to get a license to cut hair, that somehow that's a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because how in the world, in the day and age that we have of electronic communication, how in the world would anybody find out about a place that didn't give a good haircut?
Sure. And that's a lot of my no votes. It was like, no, this is added regulation. So, you break my no votes down. There was, I think Michael asked this question. I don't think I did a great job answering it, but you break my no votes down and you have ultimately, regulation. I'm against regulation, spending more of the people's money, especially for silly things. If it's for a legitimate reason, that's one thing, but there's so very few of those.
Yeah.
And then, bills that I could recognize were put forth for self-gain potentially. Those were no votes for me. And then the niche votes. If it's good, I don't like saying, oh, well, this one group. Let's look at, the Oklahoma Promise Bill for the teachers. They wanted to give the kids of Oklahoma teachers. Okay, well, tell me this. If your toilet is backing up and you have raw sewage flooding into your home, that plumber is just as important to you as a teacher in the moment, right? And so why is it that we're picking this group to give something to, but we're going to exclude this group? If you cut hair, you're out. You don't get it. If you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, if you dig ditches, if you work at Walmart, some of the people would qualify obviously based on the, income, right? But this blanket, we're going to do this for all the teachers. I don't hate teachers. I like teachers. They're fine, whatever. But I'm not going to vote yes on a special group getting a privilege. That's not how we should be conducting business.
That's not liberty.
It's not.
Period.
Yeah, exactly.
All All right. Well, Molly Jenkins, love you. You're the best. And
Thank you. Love you too.
My daughter said, well done. Thanks for the interview. Hope for liberty. You are hope for liberty. So, oh, now that's funny. And then she says, Molly's
for the caca. I love it. Nice. We had a good time.
I love the fact that we got to laugh on this podcast.
I know.
That's the other thing. Yeah, things aren't great right now, but they're definitely not going to get better if we don't find a reason to get involved. And if everybody feels like getting involved is just a slog, that's no fun, nobody's going to get involved. And by the way, we're going to have lots of fun at the Liberty Conference. Don't you worry about that. We'll be very interactive and have lots of fun. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And if you would, please make sure you tune in at 1:30. Usually we try to do them at 1, but Senator Jett wasn't able to come on until a little bit later. So make sure you get it in your head that it's 1:30 this time and not 1 o'clock. But at 1:30, we will talk to Senator Shane Jett about what he thought about the session and about how he ended up standing by himself on the Senate floor over a vote. And we'll talk to him about that and many other things. And Molly Jenkins, thank you again for being Molly Jenkins. You're a dreamboat. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jen.
And thank you so much for making this your first podcast.
And thanks to my constituents. You are my inspiration.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Cheers.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.